Good morning, everybody. It's your friendly neighborhood former news ladies, Tara Thomas and Amanda Goodman.
Thanks so much for joining us, and happy Friday. We have made it through another week, and happy faux fall.
No kidding.
I woke up this morning, I'm like, I love this right
You
now.
love it.
I do love it.
Yeah, I was in a rush to get down to our studio, so I didn't grab a jacket, but I'm freezing, and I truly cannot sustain myself during work without a space heater burning my legs.
So
cold.
You will go today into your office and you will have a space heater running all day.
I will. One time it was so bad in the newsroom because I had on tights. The tights were singed from how hot and close I had the space heater.
So maybe you won't hate like the change that we all will go through, like the hot flash. Maybe you will welcome all of the hot flashes. Maybe it won't even faze you.
Right. I'm not looking forward to that stage in life, but I'm told that me being cold all the time will at some point shift. It hasn't happened because I'm perpetually freezing. So, well, we hope that you've had a great week and are enjoying the last few gasps of summer. I think for me, it's so different because I've reached such a transition in my life. 1 week from today, we're taking my daughter to college. So it's just a different feeling, the back to school, when one is getting ready to fly the nest.
Well, and I want to know how you've been doing. And because there's so many people out here who are sending their kiddo off to college for the first time. And I know my time is coming. It's around the corner. You've been handling it really well, but I also know that you are very, very good at keeping things just in and you stay cool. But I mean, are you slowly breaking apart on the inside?
I wouldn't say breaking apart, but I think it's like a kind of a slow goodbye, because every time that I am around Charlotte, and she's so busy and an 18-year-old, so social. But then I just think to myself, wow, in a week, she's not going to be coming back to her room, and the whole family dynamic is going to be so different. So it's funny that our son, my 16-year-old, he does a lot more probably with Dave and me as far as just watching TV or hanging out. So I'm kind of used to just the three of us anyway, since Charlotte's so social. So I don't know. Yeah. So I'll get back to you in a week. We'll see how it's going.
I did read that there's something in nature that they said that when, kids, when they become teenagers, it's that natural pull away that they do. When they want to hang out in their room, be with their friends the whole time, it's because it's nature's way of starting to pull you guys apart. And that is awful, nature. Like, I don't like it. I mean, obviously we all need a time out from our kiddos, but I want to hang out. So I have to tell you, I have to switch gears real quick. I noticed something watching the Olympics last night. Some of these track stars, who are phenomenal, right? Wear their cleats around, their head. And the one guy had his mom's birthday because his mom passed away, and it was like 1980.
Wow.
Her birthday. And then I was like, so my youngest kids were like, well, you were born in the 1970 something. And I'm feeling a little low about myself this morning, that there are people out there. I mean, all those Olympians, I probably am old enough to be their mother.
Well, yes. And that reminds me of this new way that younger people refer to us, is that we were born in the 1900s.
Yes. With our chuck wagons. Yes.
Much like we used to say, 1800s, which were, the frontier days. Now we have this bizarre reference that it makes me feel so old, because you will relate to this. When you're our age, you think of like 1990 like it was 10 years ago.
Yes. It's not.
Isn't that crazy?
And I can't even go there because it really depresses me. And then I also realize that I have to apologize because I have turned into my parents, because I used to get into their cars and my mother would only listen to like Elvis Presley, Janis Joplin. My dad would only listen to Motown music. And I'm thinking, why are we listening to these oldies? When you get in my car, we are bumping to some 90s R&B and hip hop. I refuse to listen to anything new. And my kids were like, why are we listening to this? But I'm not.
To totally date myself, I still have so many fond memories of the 8-track tapes, because we had a box in, I think, probably our Chrysler LeBaron that had all the 8-tracks. And we had, oh my gosh, Eddie Rabbitt, Neil Diamond, and then a 50s one where it had like all these, it was like great 50s greatest hits. And so thinking back, Yeah, that was exactly like what my parents did.
Right.
They were going back to times when they were young, when they were in high school or even before that. And so what I love about my son is he has the most eclectic music taste. So he will sometimes play Sam Cooke or some throwback from the 60s or 70s. And I'm thinking, oh, that is the plus of today's streaming. Kids have access to so many more genres if they choose to go down that Spotify rabbit hole. So it is kind of unique.
And something to ponder on if you're joining us this morning for some of our random thoughts that we have. I want to drop in the comments whether you're listening to today's, or do you get in the car? Are you sharing your music with your kids, or do you let them take over? I certainly do not, because they turn on music and I'm thinking, this is just noise. It's awful. I'm like this crotchety old woman.
My kids remind me, I went through, when they were very young, a phase, which was, I think, a really positive thing that we intentionally did. In the car, we would always primarily listen to contemporary Christian music, and I listened to and still do Life 101.9, the local Christian station. So the children, Charlotte and Thomas, knew all of those songs so well, and then they would hear them at church. And Charlotte reminds me one day, they got on the bus. And when they started having access to a radio through the bus, it was like, oh my gosh, what are these kids listening to? Yeah. So it was funny. That was the first and last time they ever were slightly sheltered in this world.
Yeah, my car's like a trap house. And then, taking a hard left, last night was a big deal, and we kind of localize it here, but on a global scale. HBO Max released the documentary Taken Together, which chronicles the kidnapping and murder of Lyric Cook and Elizabeth Collins. This is what, if you're in Iowa, if you're in the Midwest, you know about this case. It has been 12 years since they've gone missing. If you're national, you may just remember it's those two Iowa cousins. And that's what has to change, because we have a killer among us. And the problem is that I want you to go into the documentary because you're in it. You were an anchor at that time at the local television station. This is what I'm not okay with. I am not okay with the fact that news stations, newspapers, social media, we talk about it on the anniversary of their disappearance, of their kidnapping. And then we talk about it again on the anniversary of when their remains were found in Seven Bridges Park. And that's what's not okay. Because there has been no finale. There is the monster who did this in daytime. I don't want to say broad daylight. I hate that phrase, but in daytime, kidnapped two young girls, kidnapped them, is still out there. And we're just supposed to, okay. That's what's not okay.
I have so much I could share about this, because not only was I anticipating this documentary for nearly a decade, Dylan Sayers, Evansdale native, who was my coworker, a photographer at the local TV station when this all happened, it's personal for him. He has made it his mission to help solve the case, hopefully ultimately through this documentary, a 3-part documentary, as you said, that premiered yesterday on Max. Now, side note, a bizarre twist happened where if you were to go through Amazon Prime, which is how a lot of people sign up for the subscription, it was playing in Spanish. And this was documented on social media yesterday. And so I was so frustrated. And I told my husband, here's a guy who works 10 years of his life, blood, sweat, and tears, and then some screw up on the end of the provider has caused the streaming to be an issue. But thankfully, these women found workarounds and posted the fix. You download the Max app directly, so the HBO app directly, and then we were able to go in, and Dave, my husband, and I stayed up and watched all 3 episodes, and I was fascinated. Congratulations really need to be said for Dylan Sayers for pulling off such a phenomenal piece, interviewing over 300 people. I believe even more than that, over 300 hours of tape, I think he said.
Yes.
And going back and revisiting the players, obviously the parents in the case. Amanda and I have been personal friends of Drew Collins, the father of Elizabeth, for years. In fact, he was among those who served with me on the Family and Children's Council board. I am so proud of Drew because he is just so wear his heart on his sleeve and so open and honest about all the ups and downs of this nightmare that they continue to live with no answers or resolution. But they do acknowledge in the documentary there was a relief of sorts when they did find the bodies, but that's never the happy ending anybody wants.
Well, when you're thinking, hearing Misty Cook at the one part, she said that it was raining outside. So she walked out of her house and sat in the rain. She said, because I don't know where my daughter and my niece are. Why do I get to stay in a warm, dry house if they're out? I don't know in the rain. And it's that torture. And, I get criticized a lot for rattling cages and being so vocal, and people call me polarizing and they vilify me because I'm so loud and about this. Why are we not being loud about this? This is exactly what we need to be loud about. This is where we use our voice and our power for something good, rather than just because, we live in a big house, we drive a nice car, we have all these zeros in our paycheck. That means nothing. Use your voice for good, share their picture, keep talking, because somebody around us knows something.
It was eerily similar for me working in a local newsroom at the time that this happened in 2012 to back in 1995 when I had worked at KIMT in Mason City after Jody Huisentrude's abduction. We would get calls regularly into the newsroom with tips, information, and you feel so helpless because you're thinking, is this the missing link? And then how are we effectively capturing those leads and getting them to police? So it was encouraging. And they detail this in the documentary. And for anybody who's ever walked through the nightmare of a family tragedy like this, I felt that it was comforting to know how thorough this investigation was, and in the minds of these DCI folks continues to be. So that gave me hope. But I have to give you credit, because after the cameras went away, and as you describe, only on the anniversaries when it was kind of like we have to bring up, the tragedy again and just go through the motions, you consistently were somebody that went alongside Drew, also the Jake Wilson family and that scenario, as well as Molly Tibbetts, and even held a vigil. And so part of your platform with child advocacy has also been leveraged to acknowledge and continue to spread that information in these missing persons cases. And so I appreciate what you've done, and I know that has meant a lot to Drew and these other family members of victims and survivors.
And it's interesting. I appreciate you saying that. It's interesting because when you write, sometimes people want you to write like light and fluffy. Life isn't light and fluffy. It's not. So I'm not going to post, where I got my curling iron today, or what shade of red lipstick I'm wearing, because that's what people are so conditioned about asking me and asking you when we were on television. Like, what size barrel are you using on your hair? So then when you finally use your voice and your platform for something that has meaning and that has purpose, people are like, oh no, it's just too much. It's too much. So it's, we have to fight for our children. We have to fight for our children. No matter what it is. I mean, the very people who argue that their child doesn't start on a team or, gets a B when they thought they deserved an A, think I am too rough around the edges when it comes to fighting for children. And it's, you rattle the cages. So I really encourage everyone today, share their picture on social media. And you don't have to write anything elaborate. Just share their picture and say Lyric Cook and Elizabeth Collins. Just share it. Let's just flush this monster out who did this horrendous thing. And definitely watch the documentary. It's phenomenal. It's well done.
My last thought, I'll never forget when Drew said, imagine how it feels to drive around your community and see your child's photo on the bumper sticker of a car, or to walk into a gas station and know that you have likely passed your child's killer. And I think that is always what is so striking, that the investigation has always pointed to somebody local, somebody who knows that, the killer is either among us or is the killer. So as she said, it's up to us, thanks to social media, to help keep the case alive and then to ultimately bring some kind of resolution that Drew and the rest of the family so deserves.
Right. Absolutely. Please watch it. I know we took a turn, but this topic is far too important. We don't talk about it enough. and we really need to. We want to be, you know, fun and light on this in the morning show every Friday, but some things, this is about families that were torn apart by an unspeakable and unthinkable tragedy. And
it changed Evansdale and this entire area forever. You can't drive by there and not think about the cousins.
Well, I parent differently because of this case. I parent differently.
As do a lot of people.
And what we allow, you know, the carefree summer riding bikes around. We don't do that. We don't do that.
We have to acknowledge that this is our second morning show episode, second Friday.
And the camera is higher, Chris Carter. Look.
Oh, yes. We had to raise the camera for our dear friend and number one critic, Christopher Carter. We love you. And thanks for your feedback.
You're in trouble now. She just dropped the Christopher on you.
For us, honestly, much like the inception of the podcast, it was a friendship endeavor / cathartic release. And so we love that our unexpected result has been that so many of you took time to either watch it live as we were streaming a week ago or to watch the replay. 17,000 people watched our first episode. So that was really humbling.
It is interesting. And so it was funny because my daughter said, you know, don't you think that a lot of people who don't like you watch? I said, 1,000% they did. You know, I was like, a lot of people to watch and see, like, are they fatter than when they were on television, or what do they look like, or what are they doing? You know, I mean, I want to say this too before we leave. I know we're taking a little bit more time. We're not doing this for like, look at us. It's one of those things that we still have gas left in the tank.
Well said.
We still have gas left in the tank. We love connecting with people, having a conversation. And that's what the news was, especially when we were both morning show anchors in our career. Morning show was my favorite because you were having a conversation with people on the other side of the camera who were sitting in their living rooms or kitchens. And I miss that. I do. And that's why the speaking series is so fun, because we get just to be with people and hanging out and have conversations with them. So,
and I think what we sort of accepted and were resigned to was the fact that no woman, generally speaking, has an opportunity to age into her late 50s, 60s, and 70s as a female news anchor. Yeah. Those who do are very few and far between. And the only one that usually ever would come to mind is Barbara Walters. When you would ask somebody, think of an older woman you've seen on television. And so what a gift that thanks to digital platforms, we can be old and gray and, you know, overweight and still have the pleasure and the privilege of sharing our voice, because we do have a lot of compassion and connection to the local community. So in a case like this, you know, sort of revising of an important case, we have a history here. We have the insight, and we know we're personally connected to the players. So shame on us, as we always say, if we did not leverage the platform for good, in this case, to try to help solve a case we all want to see resolution happen for.
Yeah, absolutely. Somebody out there knows something. Just say their names today and every day. Lyric Cook and Elizabeth Collins, do not wait for their anniversary. This is something that their families are living with daily, minute to minute. And shame on us for not doing more, myself included. We have to do more. On that note, we hope you have an amazing weekend. Is it going to be fall-like all weekend?
I hope not. I'm not. I'm not,
smiling through gritted teeth. Tara doesn't swear, but she's like, I hate this. So meanwhile, I have my sweater. I am in, you know.
You look cute.
I'm
you
in
look
fall
good.
mode.
Well, have a great rest of your day, and thank you for spending part of your morning with us.